On this episode of the Captain's Pod, HSP, highly sensitive people. Are you one? There's a test to find out. The tables are turned and I'm the one getting interviewed. Also, introverts and ADHD and first-hand tips on how to cope. All on this episode of the Captain's Pod. Welcome to episode number 25 of the Captain's Pod. Thank you for clicking on that play button. We've got a really good episode for you today. I am your host. They call me the Captain, or sometimes, like in today's episode, some people call me Brian. And that is because I am the one getting interviewed. At least a little bit. Michelle Lynn is a teacher. She is a curriculum writer for the Naperville School District. She has 2 master's degrees. And she's a highly sensitive person, HSP. In addition to that, or hand in hand with that, as you will hear, she also talks about being an introvert and having ADHD and how some of that is all related. Now, I had suspicions about myself being an HSP, and so we do the quiz in the interview, and I give my responses and some insight into my dealings with being an HSP and being often misunderstood. HSP is not something that is a disorder. It's more like a personality type, and 15 to 20% of the population of the world could be HSP. So chances are you may very well relate to what we're talking about today or know somebody that it relates to. It's all about the feels and how strongly you feel them. So let's dive into all of this good info. Time to strap in and blast off with Michelle Lynn and me on episode number 25 of the Captain's Pod.
I want to talk about the feels.
The feels.
That's what I want to talk
I
about.
like talking about the feels.
That's what I want to get down to business about, the feels. I've been reading about highly sensitive people by Elaine, Aron. She's someone that does research on highly sensitive people. And, ever since I was young, I've always felt a little bit emotional. People have said I'm too sensitive, or, I'll react in a way sometimes that I feel like is maybe dramatic or over the top. And I know I'm a sensitive person. I've always been an introvert. So, even a setting like this brings on a lot of anxiety for me. It's challenging to talk and open up. But I was reading a book by Susan Cain called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. Mm-hmm. And when I read that book, it kind of opened up a lot of just new ways of thinking for me, because I've always been someone that's been kind of in my head, and, people will, when you're someone that kind of is in your head, they'll think you're shy, or they will think you're antisocial or stuck up in it. And I really think of myself as an observer. Mm-hmm. I like watching situations and just looking at what's going on in an environment.
You've said, and when you walk into a room sometimes, or there's a place that you haven't been before, mm-hmm. You've said that you kind of need to get the lay of the land and kind of get the layout of the room and kind of feel things out for a little bit before you can really start to feel comfortable, right?
Yeah. For a while I thought I had social anxiety or something, and I don't really think I do. It's just, when I walk into a room, I notice everything. I also have ADHD, so, I pick up on every little nuance in the room, but I can feel the energy of people sometimes, and I need to, get my bearings a little bit. Mm-hmm. If I go to a party or something, I kind of am focusing on every conversation all at once, and I'm watching, what people are doing, not only what they're saying, but their body movements and how their facial expressions are towards one another. And that's a thing that people that are highly sensitive do. They will pick up on the subtleties in their environment and just notice some of the things that other people won't notice, and then you're processing that in your head. So you're kind of, in your head thinking about the situation. You could tell, oh, wow, that couple over there, the guy has this weird expression on his face. She must be saying something that he doesn't like, and you start thinking about that, but someone else might be talking to you, mm-hmm. right by you, and so you're trying to focus on that. So a lot of times it's an overstimulating situation. Right. A lot of input, and you're processing and thinking about everything and hearing all the sounds, or, a light might be flickering just a little bit, and you are focusing on that. So, it really can sometimes drain you a little bit because you're focusing on so much.
Right. And that's like the ADHD aspect of things?
Yeah, that's like part of it. A lot of like the research and, different things right now, like ADHD, highly sensitive, like sensory type things, kind of related. A lot of times people that are highly sensitive also have ADHD as well. People a lot of times will think with like ADHD, you aren't able to focus on anything, but it's actually really the opposite. You're focusing on everything, which is why your mind is all over the place. There's this sort of feeling like you're really just awkward because it feels like you're not connecting sometimes with people in the moment, but you're totally connecting, but like at a different level. Like you're feeling like all their energy, and like you can know if someone's upset sometimes even before they're upset. You can just kind of see it in their facial expression, or even like the change in the tone or pitch of their voice sometimes will let on to, oh, something's not right. They're not feeling right.
Now, do you think it's like just something about like the energy that you're feeling coming off of that person, or is there visual cues that trigger things in your mind? Or
I think there's visual cues. I think it's really just paying attention to like the fine details. You notice everything. Like I can tell if someone's uncomfortable, if they're like kind of tugging at their clothing or adjusting in their chair.
Guilty.
Guilty, yes. Or, if they're bored, they're kind of like looking off to the side. It's almost like you're a detective. And I've joked around before, like after watching like the Sherlock Holmes shows and him being like in his mind palace and like putting everything together. I feel like for me, that's what it is a lot. Like all of it will come to me at different times and I'll see different images, and it's like a puzzle that I almost like put together much later.
Yeah, because you have an amazingly accurate memory. Like you remember everything, like video, like it's a recording.
Right.
And so like you have all that information, and it's almost like you can go back and remember minute details of where an item was on a countertop. Or
well, yeah,
like that.
And that's the funny thing. Like when I was growing up, my mom would like tease me all the time because I have like no really good short-term memory because I'm not in the present a lot, but I'll have an amazing long-term memory. Like I can tell my mom like, hey, I remember that Christmas when we did this, and I can remember to the detail like the clothing that everyone was wearing or like the food that was, being made, and be able to like tell it back, in detail. And, my mom would always be like, who remembers that kind of stuff, but you can't remember to like turn the lights off when you leave a room, which is very true. So like there's this sort of like duality of like, wow, I'm really dense, but I remember all these great things from like 5, 6, 10 years ago, like longer, which is an odd feeling sometimes.
Now, there's been a lot just really recently where I've seen, and maybe it's just because of Facebook feeds and whatnot, where all of a sudden this HSP thing has come up, where there actually has been highly sensitive person is now, it's a real term. I don't know how long that's been, but like now we're finally seeing information on it. And this is this book that you're talking about now, right? Right.
It's called Highly Sensitive Persons, and it's been around. This researcher she started doing, Elaine, Aron, she started doing this research in the early 90s, just kind of noticing like she was a sensitive person. She felt like overwhelmed in certain situations, a lot of like sensory input, and she started doing research on it. And, actually 15 to 20% of the population could be classified as a highly sensitive person. I mean, it's more than what would be considered like a disorder. So you wouldn't think of it like, oh, this is like a mental disorder, this is a problem. There's actually so many people that it's considered more of just like a personality trait.
I mean, there is kind of a misconception that because of the term highly sensitive person, people might think that like maybe they're temperamental or something of that effect, but that's not really an accurate description.
No, it's like sensitive. I think of it more of like empathy. From an early age, I could remember being in school, and if like there was, sometimes you have teachers that are kind of mean or make fun of kids. I would find that even in elementary school, if a teacher was calling someone out or making fun of someone, I would get flushed, like my skin would get red, my temperature would kind of rise, and I would feel like embarrassment, like that was actually happening to me because I just felt so bad for that person.
Right,
and then I would, you get like physical symptoms from it, like sick to your stomach. And my own daughter actually had a similar experience. She was in Taekwondo for a while, and, she loved it. She liked the exercise and the different like things that they would learn. But the teacher was just, typical like coaches sometimes, it's just personalities. He would be very direct and aggressive with the kids and put them in like competition with one another. And then when they were sparring, if one of the students would beat another one in the sparring match, he would make fun of the other one a little bit and say, "What are you, a baby? Like, you can't handle this, you lost." And my daughter was getting really upset, like emotional, even though it wasn't happening to her. She actually wanted to quit because she didn't like that type of competition where you were like putting someone down. And a lot of times in Western culture and even in the school system, it is about competition. And I'm someone that I tell people all the time, like, I'll do an independent sport where I'm doing my own thing. But if you want me to compete and be like, oh, I'm going to beat the other team, I'm not that person because I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. Like, if it's just like a leisurely activity or even different things, like, I don't get caught up. I've had situations where people were like mad at me for like not trying. And, I would sit there, if we were doing like a trivia thing at work, and I would just be at some point like, okay, I'm not going to answer questions anymore, even if I like knew things, because people wanted it like done quickly, or they would get upset if they felt like I wasn't trying as hard, and I'm just not into that. And that's, really how my daughter was with like the whole Taekwondo thing. It's just not important. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like, if it's not for like a certain cause and it's just a game, like it doesn't really matter to me.
And it's like kind of like the anti-conflict thing that you were talking about, where it's like, I think that's the thing is because, and I've said it to people who have misunderstood it. I've said highly sensitive person, and they're like, well, yeah, like you said, like somebody who's going to get really upset and yell or something like that because they're oversensitive, but that's not it at all. And that's what we're trying to get at. And I know like what you're saying is, I know that I feel the empathy when other people, if somebody else in the room starts crying, I'm right there too.
Yeah.
I'm right there too. It doesn't even matter what it is.
Right.
And I think that particularly with guys, that's something that you're brought up that's not what you're supposed to do.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that whole machismo or that whole, being a tough guy thing. And I'm a 7th grade teacher, and so I teach adolescents, and that's already a tough time, and people are trying to figure out who they are, and you see a lot of that. It's just like a cultural thing that guys need to, always be in competition, kind of like that one up on each other. And then you have instances of, you can see it in the classroom, like some boys that just aren't into that. One of the things I do is I try to introduce my kids to a lot of just different perspectives when you're looking at things that kind of break down those stereotypes that we have about, gender roles or how people should be. I read something called Boys Code with the kids, and it's really just like a story that this researcher put together about this boy who always was feeling like he needed to be tough, and he was kind of being bullied by other people at school, but he didn't want to like let his parents know because it would be like the not manly thing to do. And it really led to him kind of feeling, depressed, anxiety, suicidal, and just not wanting to go to school. And you see that a lot with like the whole bullying situation with kids, like whether it's verbal, physical, online bullying, it gets to a point where they don't want to tell anyone because then they're going to be like wusses, or they're being a baby, or, a lot of times if a boy will be upset or cry, the common responses are like, toughen up, or don't be so sensitive. Yeah. And that's really damaging, I think, to the psyche of anybody, but I think it happens more definitely towards boys. And it's funny because whenever we read that story in class, we'll ask, who's more sensitive, or who puts on a mask more, boys or girls? And everyone will be like, oh, girls do. They put on makeup and they do all this stuff to try to impress people. But by the time we read the story, the kids are usually like, wow, that's really true. And it's nice because just talking about it lets some of the boys feel like they have permission to say, yeah, I get upset when people do that, or yeah, that hurts my feelings. And it's kind of my whole point with liking to talk about being a highly sensitive person is this whole notion that you don't have to be ashamed of your feelings or your emotions. You can talk about them, and it's okay. I think a lot of time, when I was growing up, I would just shut out how I felt and not tell people because I didn't want to be considered dramatic or seen in a way that I really wasn't. I felt like really misunderstood a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that feeling all too well of being misunderstood. Is there criteria that maybe in the book to determine whether or not you qualify as a highly sensitive person?
Yeah, and one thing, like talking with you, I have the privilege of like when I met you, I didn't know your whole band thing. I met you as you, like as just Brian, and that was kind of cool for me because I felt like we got a chance to like kind of talk and very real, and I got to see who you were. And then it kind of surprised me then when I saw you on stage because that didn't match. Like I was like, wait, who's this guy? I'm like, and I think I even said at one point, like, I'm so glad I didn't meet you as, the captain, because I probably wouldn't have talked to you like ever again. Like, and I'm serious, because I would have been like this cheesy guy. No offense. Sorry. I'm being bad right now.
No, the character is.
But yeah, like the whole character. So like the genuine you, and I like that. But yeah, there are criteria, and I know we've talked about some of those things as well, but in the book there's an actual like test. Are you highly sensitive? A self-test, and it asks different true false questions, and there's a variety of them, and if you answer a majority of them, like 12 or more, it would be an indicator. It's not like a real like psychologist like test or anything like that, but just kind of an indicator that you might have a tendency towards some of these traits.
Okay.
Would you like to hear some of these questions?
Am I taking the test now?
Yes, I think you should take the test.
I'm taking the test
because it's about the feels, and I'd like your sensitive side to show a little bit here.
Okay.
So here we go.
All right.
One of the first questions is, I seem to be aware of subtleties in my environment. Is true or false?
True.
True.
I think that's I try to explain it to people as the energy's off. And that's what I tend to say a lot of times. Like when you walk into a place and you're like, there's something not right in here. Mm-hmm. I've had that where, talking about a party, like you said earlier, where I've walked into a party scenario and there can be, everybody looks like they're having a good time, but somewhere off in a corner somewhere, there's somebody who's upset, and I will seek out that person because I'm like, the energy's not right in here, and I have to find out why and where it's coming from.
And I've heard you say before, like, when you think someone's upset with you and you're like, oh, my skin's crawling, you just kind of get that feeling. Other people's moods affect me.
Definitely. I think that anti-conflict thing, I try to be that person in the situation where when things are getting heated, I try to diffuse in whatever.
Like the peacekeeper.
Yeah, whatever way I can.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's either peacekeeper or avoidance, which is kind of like, that whole flight thing that happens a lot with like people with HSP. They will
fight or flight.
Yeah. That's like either I'm going to try to fix it or just like avoid it like it's not happening because you want to avoid it at all costs. Mm-hmm. I tend to be very sensitive to pain.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of a hard gauge. I don't know.
Do you want me to punch you or something?
If you'd like to, sure.
Okay.
That one I don't know about, because sometimes at the same time I'm like my father in the way where I'll cut myself and not even realize it until like I see blood elsewhere.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I find myself needing to withdraw during busy days, into bed or into a darkened room or any place where I can have some privacy or relief from stimulation.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's like going into the cave and hibernating for a bit just to kind of, recharge.
And I think that's part where people think sometimes like you're shy because you do, like I know for me, like I love going out and I love people, but if I have like a weekend where I do something like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, by the time it's Sunday night, like I am just drained. Yeah. Like I've spent, because you're really getting all those people's energy and you're talking with people, and people are kind of drawn to you sometimes because they know that. I think people can tell when you're a really keen listener or you're observing and you're really in tune with them. Mm-hmm. And so they will come and, take up a little bit more of your time, and you're so concerned with everything that it becomes so tiring that definitely after like multiple days of like going out, you just need your alone time.
Right.
It's really important.
Well, and I think I used to refer to social environments like kind of like, and it's unfortunate what happened, but I used to call it the Robin Williams effect, where when I'm in a public environment or I'm on stage, there's a light switch that goes on. It's that light switch effect. And then as soon as I'm out of that environment, you turn the lights off, and that's when I got to go to the cave and I got to recharge for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's like the light switch effect, which is, unfortunately, I used to use Robin Williams as the prime example of it, but, that's an unfortunate story in and of itself. So.
Well, but that's true. And a lot of people have said that Robin Williams himself, highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
And that, that's one of the reasons it's important, I think, to acknowledge when you have these tendencies or this trait, because it can lead to anxiety and depression. And if you're not doing things to cope with it or self-regulate, it can become overwhelming to a point that you are just spent, and those types of things can happen.
Yeah.
And I think, too, different types of jobs, like I know your job definitely requires you to put on a persona and always be happy and always be there for other people, no matter how you're feeling. Like you've got to show up and being a teacher as well. It doesn't matter what kind of a day I have in the morning. When I go to work, I'm in front of kids, and I can't just be up there like a complete mess and not have it together, which in itself is then another stage of kind of performing and draining. Yeah, so definitely yes to that one.
Definitely yes to that one.
That one's good, yeah. I am particularly sensitive to the effects of caffeine. Well, I'm ADD, so if you give me caffeine, I'm going to relax because I have the opposite effect. But yeah.
I don't know, probably. I've never really thought about it.
Let's make some coffee and try it.
Well, as I'm drinking tea, because I've been drinking tea pretty much nonstop. It's probably not good for me. But
that's herbal tea, so it's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Not black tea has a lot of caffeine in it. Green tea can, but I think I gave you caffeine herbal tea.
Okay.
Is that good?
That's good. You tell me.
Caffeine free. It is. It's good.
Okay.
It's good. I am easily overwhelmed by things like bright lights, strong smells, coarse fabrics, or sirens close by.
In general, I don't know. I'm so used to being around loud sounds.
Yeah, that's true.
And bright lights even at that. But then again, you know what? I always wear sunglasses on stage.
And you always turn the lights out first thing when you come over.
I do. I always turn the lights out.
And the heat's wrong.
Well, and then, the smell thing, definitely. Definitely the smell thing.
Like when I'm burning incense and cooking and
there's a combination of smells that's just not happening.
Yeah, like the juicy fruit combination of my essential oils.
It
was citrus, lemongrass, and spearmint. It was juicy fruit.
Yeah, but I was right. I was like, why does it smell like juicy fruit in here?
Yeah.
Give me those elements. That's what's juicy fruit. Okay.
True. So yes, I have a rich, complex inner life.
I don't know what that means.
Let me explain it. I figured. Like in your head, like you could be thinking a lot of things. So like you could be going about your like everyday tasks, but in your head, like so much is going on, and you can like actually be like by yourself and having like whole conversations sometimes in your head, and like visualizing like scenarios and situations in your head.
That's me.
I know. Yeah.
That's why it's weird. I know. And as a musician, this is kind of a weird thing, but I very rarely listen to anything when I'm driving in the car.
Yeah.
Cause that's like my time to like think, because if I put on music, then it's going to be another layer of stuff to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause that's the other thing too, is when I do put music on, then I'm picking it apart. Like I don't listen to music I listen to it for different reasons. I can't say that I don't listen to it out of enjoyment, because I do, but when I do listen to it, I'm like picking it apart as far as from a producer point of view.
Well, yeah,
I
it's
guess.
that analytical. You're like noticing everything, like, and like people with that are highly sensitive are also extremely creative and analytical and can break things down like that. So it's like you're always thinking, and sometimes even thinking like, oh, how can I make this better, even if it's like not your own stuff. True. Like, which is like a weird thing. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna like re-record this song, so why do I care? But you'll find yourself in the car going like, oh, well, I don't really like the way they put the drums in there, and like I don't like that part at all, and then it's like you were thinking like if you were going to do it, how you would do it differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, yes.
And then I get called a control freak.
Yeah. Well, that's not usually. Yeah. I am made uncomfortable by loud noises.
Again, I'm so used to being around them. I don't know that qualifies
so
for me.
That one's like, not for you. I am deeply moved by the arts or music.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I remember one time, like, we have talent shows at my school, and I was standing next to this girl, and we were watching a girl. She was playing on the piano, right? And we're just watching, like, the 7th grade talent show at the end of the year. And this other, like, you know, it's this 12-year-old girl standing next to me waiting for her turn to go on, just standing there, like, sobbing because it's, like, so beautiful. And then I was, like, standing there, like, and then I started crying because, like, you know, you hear something or even like look at a painting, or sometimes I'll be reading like a story to the kids and I'm just like, it catches me by surprise. Sometimes I'll just start crying.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a common thing. I like tell the kids, hey, you know what? I'm probably going to cry in front of you. Just know that it's okay. Like, and I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
but it definitely happens.
No, that happens. I mean, TV shows. Again, like I said, if there's somebody crying in a room, I cry. TV shows does the same thing, especially with those happy, tearful moments. I'm like, this is why I'm like, I can never have like Lifetime TV.
Those Hallmark Christmas.
No, but I mean, even so, everything, music. I was just texting Dan, a drummer for my band, earlier tonight about a piece of music that we're working on together, and he sent me over a version of it that he's working on, and I sent it back. I'm like, dude, I'm all teary because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. So on that one.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good one. I am conscientious.
What does that mean?
Conscientious means like you pay attention, like details. You'll follow through. You want to do a good job at things, and you follow up with everything.
Anal retentiveness?
Maybe, yeah, a little bit with some things.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the case for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good. I startle easily.
I don't think so.
I know I do.
Yeah, you do.
I can't own a toaster. You know the story about the toaster. I can't own a toaster because I anticipate when the bread is going to pop out of the toaster, and I know it's going to scare me. And I just can't. I don't have a toaster because of that.
This is a sad story.
It is. I know, but that's a true story.
Should probably cut bread out of my diet, huh?
Yeah, too many carbs. You know, let's go gluten-free anyway. It's all right. I get rattled when I have a lot to do in a short amount of time.
Hi. There's a portrait of me.
I don't even think we need to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no,
There's
that's
nothing to say
definitely
about
me.
that. When people are uncomfortable in a physical environment, I tend to know what needs to be done to make it more comfortable, like changing the lighting or seating.
I think definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be part of the whole thing. And I don't know if it's a result of having been a host of various things or in the past or what it is. Like, it's kind of a collection of my experiences where I feel compelled to be, in any situation, make it better.
Yeah.
Especially in social gatherings.
Yeah.
If I walk into a room and it's like, okay, everybody's bored, let's amp it up.
Yeah.
Or whatever it may be. So there is something, I don't know what it is, but I do feel compelled to do that.
Right. And I've said that to you before, like when you're out in a social situation, if you see someone unhappy or you can read people's feelings. So then you might say, oh, let's go do this, or let's we're going to go to this place and dance, or, do something else. And from my end, obviously not a musician, teacher, I think that helps me a lot in the classroom because, I work with a lot of students that have special needs, a lot of behavior disorders. So, one of the first things like you want to notice before someone gets agitated, especially if they have like anger management issues. So if I start to notice like a student shifting in the seat or, giving me those subtle nonverbal cues that something's off, like I will do something differently. Like, hey, do you want to like rest on the floor? Do you want to take a break? So I think, in my profession, a lot of people say, oh, you're really good with special needs kids, but that's why, because I kind of see what they need and can, head it off before it becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important skill. So there are positive things to being sensitive as well.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I am annoyed when people try to get me to do too many things at once.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's like that sense of overwhelm, Yeah. And like for me, it's like hard to know like what part's my ADHD, that my mind's already kind of scattered and how much is like a sensory type of thing overwhelming me sometimes.
Yeah.
I try hard to avoid making mistakes or forgetting things.
I try hard.
Try hard.
I try hard.
What kind of strategies do you use?
Ooh.
That's a teacher question.
Really?
It is. What kind of strategies do you use to try to not forget things?
Honestly, the biggest thing that I've found is thankful to smartphones is the calendar on the phone.
Good.
On the phone, I put everything on the calendar on the phone, and I have to set reminders.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I totally forget about stuff.
I make it a point to avoid violent movies and TV shows.
Not anymore. I think I'm desensitized to the whole thing.
Okay.
I was just having this conversation with Ramon about this, and we were saying, like, we can't believe that they still make horror movies, because I would think that all of us are so desensitized to it now. Yeah. But they're still putting them out in the theaters. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're older, and it's just...
I don't know. It bothers me. Like, I can't... Like, some shows like Hostel, like those, like, movies, like, like where it's just, like, gruesome violence I don't like.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you on that.
I can't just watch, like, even like Walking Dead, even though I know it's supposed to be like this amazing show, like I turned it on, and I don't watch a lot of TV anyway, and like the first thing I see is like a guy like bite someone's ear off and like bang his head into a car. Then I was just like, oh my gosh, it was like making me feel bad. I had to like close my eyes. I'm like, I can't watch this show. I don't know what this show's about. I can't watch it.
That's where we differ. I'll take zombie violence all day. That's fine.
Okay. I become unpleasantly aroused when a lot is going on around me.
What is unpleasantly
aroused?
When there's a lot going on around me.
Yeah, so like if there's like a lot of
chaos.
Yeah, chaos. Like people moving around you, like doing like all this like different stuff, or talking a lot, or maybe you're trying to do something and there's just so much just
definitely, because I thought that was maybe like a fear of crowds or something for me, which is weird considering the job that I have.
Yeah.
But like I mean, you're hard pressed to get me to go to a concert for like another, like for a major act or something, except for like the ones that I really...
Except for your own band. Okay.
It's like I said, like unless it's somebody that I really, really, and there's like on one hand, I could count the people that I really would want to go see in a live scenario, but crowds and stuff, I don't do well in.
Yeah. It makes me feel like anxious. And like what I was saying before, I felt like I had social anxiety until I realized it's really, I'm just getting overstimulated.
Yeah,
like it's
that could be just it.
Too much happening visually and sound wise and everything.
There's just so many different energies going on in that environment too. That could be it right there.
I like this next question.
Okay. Being
very hungry creates a strong reaction in me, disrupting my concentration or mood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is funny because I know some people that like get really agitated, and like if they haven't eaten in a while and they like get mean or they can't talk.
It's the Snickers commercials.
Yeah. See, well, I'm the opposite. I mean, I can go all day without eating. I like forget to eat, like as part of my ADHD. Like, but I know it's different in different people. Mm-hmm. Changes in my life shake me up.
Not as much as they used to, but of course, I mean, I think change is rough for everybody. Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty general.
If your routine gets disrupted, though, like you have it in your mind, like how you want your day to go, and then something pops up you weren't expecting, how does that impact you?
Yeah, that can be frustrating.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not just like major changes. It's like even like the little changes in your every day-to-day routine.
Okay, yeah.
I think you have like a routine of things you like to do.
Sure.
You don't like to be talked to in the morning and different things like that.
Well, here's the thing. My morning is different from most people's mornings.
You don't jump out of bed and get all excited and hop around the room or anything like that?
That's not me. I have like a series of like 18 groans that I go through when I wake up before I get to like actually something that's going to be audible out of my mouth or understandable.
Gotcha.
I should say.
I notice and enjoy delicate or fine scents, tastes, sounds, or works of art.
Sounds. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Food I'm not that picky about, I don't think.
But you'll notice, like, you notice if there was citrus in something.
Oh, yeah.
You do notice if there's, like, a certain, you'll ask, like, did you put, like, cinnamon in that? Or you can pick out the individual, like, nuances in the food.
Wow, I never thought about that.
But you can.
Huh, okay.
Okay, there you go, yes. I make it a high priority to arrange my life to avoid upsetting or overwhelming situations.
Yep.
That's where the control freak part comes in, because I've been called a control freak before. And it's not that I'm trying to control people. I've said this before. I'm trying to control situations because I know how they impact me.
Right.
I'm very self-aware. So I like needing to know like the times of when things are happening, or that situation of when you walk into a room, knowing like what the layout is. It's really just trying to make yourself in balance with like all of the input you're going to have, or knowing that, hey, I get kind of freaked out if I don't know what's going on, and I don't want to freak out because that makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
And other people might interpret that as being like a control freak, I think.
Well, and that's, you said, like, you need to know what to expect. Like when you have to lay out your day in your head and say, I need to know I'm going to encounter a situation that's going to be like this, so I need to have this set of skills ready to go.
Right.
And that's why when you have like a sudden last minute change, you're like, well, wait, because
Right.
you need to kind of like
Right.
get the different toolbox.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing with being a highly sensitive person. You can't just be like, hey, I'm sensitive. Everybody in the world, like, bow down to me and just like, don't talk right now and don't do this because I don't want you to. You have to learn to adapt and cope. And so you have to develop coping mechanisms. I mean, if it's only 15 to 20% of the population, the rest of the world isn't going to stop for you. And even the kind of job you have, like my job, like I can't tell, I work in a middle school. I can't be like, okay, it's passing period, everybody don't talk, or everybody walk really quietly,
Right.
I mean, there are some days where I'm like, okay, it's going to be quiet reading time now because I just can't take it anymore. You guys are too wound up. Or, like I tell the kids when they come into the classroom after lunch, I'll just go, you're interrupting my zen, and then they're like, and then they laugh now. They come and they go, shh, it's Miss Lyon's zen, like, don't like, be quiet. She's been in the room quiet by herself. We're too much, so it's those kinds of things. You can let other people know like how you are, but you can't expect them to drastically change themselves just for you. As well. All right, we're almost done. There's like 2 questions left. Okay. When I must compete or be observed while performing a task, I become so nervous or shaky that I do much worse than I would otherwise.
Definitely started off that way.
Yeah.
But now I've been a performer for so long that I think I'm used to being thrown into so many different situations, it doesn't affect me anymore. Yeah.
I think certain things like teaching, because I teach and I have to do presentations, like public speaking's not hard for me, but if it's a brand new situation where I'm asked to perform something like, I took guitar lessons for a while and I could not play my guitar in front of the instructor. I had to just listen to what I was supposed to do, go home and practice it, and then after I felt like I was good at it, then I could like play it. But like in the situation, like I was really uncomfortable messing up, or I just couldn't focus right.
Is that performance anxiety?
It is performance anxiety. And then I have that, I mean, I remember in college when I was in a biology class, like I was acing the class, and then we had to do a live lab test, like where we actually did stuff on the spot with the teacher watching us, and I failed it. And now I think about it, actually I had 100% in driver's ed and failed the driving lab because I just couldn't handle someone like watching me. I felt like they're kind of like judging me, and it was like too much for me in that moment. So like I would know everything I'm supposed to do and be able to do it on my own. But if someone else is like watching, I just fail miserably.
So it's just that thought of somebody critiquing you.
Yeah.
Even if they're not saying anything, if there's eyeballs on you, you feel like that you're being judged in some kind of a way. Is that an HSP thing?
Oh, yeah. That is majorly that being highly sensitive to criticism, because you don't want to displease people. You're very much in tune with people, what people think of you. You want people just to be happy, and you want to be pleasing people in a genuine way. And so if you feel like they're watching you kind of feel like you're going to disappoint people. And the disappointing people would probably be like one of the worst things for someone that's highly sensitive, because your goal in life is to just be happy, make people happy. And so just the thought of it, like, and a lot of times I know me, I'll have hypothetical situations where I'm like anticipating all the ways people are going to be disappointed in me if I do this or this, and I'll act out the whole situation. So I almost get myself freaked out before I go do something or talk to a person or anticipating that conflict, which then kind of creates like this crazy cycle in your mind. One of the things you have to do is learn to kind of try to be more in the moment, like the present versus in your head and you thinking how everyone's going to respond to you.
That is the hugest thing for me, is that sense of disappointment. I mean, that is just like, it's probably overrun my entire life. Yeah. It's just the fact that I'd never want anyone to feel disappointed.
Right.
From anything that I've done or not done. And I think it's guided a lot of my life.
Right.
You know, in a I would say more so in a negative way a lot of times than in a positive way.
I would say so too. I mean, that's one of the reasons like I'm really interested in this topic, is because I know that I feel like I've held myself back in some situations and not taken risks because of that fear of disappointment. And I know I've spent a lot of time worrying about how other people perceive me. And I know I've created problems or thought people were upset with me when they weren't, just because of like my just fear of that disappointing people and not wanting to be seen like in a bad light ever. So, I mean, that's a real challenge, and that's where that anxiety and sometimes that depression can come in if you're highly sensitive. Well,
I spend my entire life in a lot of aspects right now, I mean, trying to make people happy as part of my job, in the various aspects of it. And it's almost like going so far to the other extreme because I'm so afraid of disappointing people.
Right.
And I do just genuinely just want the people around me to be happy for a lot of the reasons we've talked about. Because if they're not, it affects me.
Yeah, and then come see you again.
Well, no, beyond that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, like, you know, I genuinely just want everybody to be happy. And I think that's definitely affected me. And in the contrast of what you're saying is like how I don't want to disappoint anybody. And that's why whenever I do what I do, I try to make sure it's the best possible. And I get really, really down if I do feel like I've disappointed somebody.
Right.
Like really down. Yeah. That's like a shutdown hibernation. Well, I got to go away for a while.
Well, and then you fear conflict so much that you don't even talk it out.
Right.
Like you're avoiding the situation. So then it becomes like this. It's like compacted because, okay, you might have a wrong perception, but you're surely not going to go check it with someone because then that's like potential conflict. So it becomes like a thing that you don't even work out sometimes because then you're just like laying there, okay, I might have upset this person, but I'm not going to go check it out because they'll be more mad at me and it could be a potential argument. When sometimes if you just talked with someone, it like works itself out. I found, over time that it's better to just try to check those perceptions versus avoiding them.
And that's the thing that I do now. And I think that sometimes it gets annoying to some people because especially with the people that I work with, like I do frequent check-ins.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I think that when I didn't do that, like I said, and it goes back to like my divorce, I felt like I thought everything was going okay. And then all of a sudden I was informed that I wasn't. And then I was going to be divorced and all of this stuff. And it was like, gee, I should have checked in earlier,
Yeah.
So now I kind of like overcompensate for that. And I think that I'm constantly checking in. Like if there's the slightest bit of something, I'm checking in with the people around me and being like, hey, is everything okay? Because I just want to clear the air. And
like you're hypersensitive.
But then I think now those people are like, okay, dude, would you just shut up? Everything's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like everything in life's just about balance, you know, like. And that's the thing people with HSP will do. Like, they'll notice, because they're very smart and they learn from situations. So if you have the situation you said, like with your divorce, where you felt like you weren't checking in. So then you're going to take it to the extreme and you're going to go all the way to the other side. And now you're going to be doing this. And then you start realizing, oh, these people are irritated too. I'm in a no-win situation. No matter what I do, everybody's mad at me. This sucks, So then it's like...
I think I've had that exact conversation in my...
Yeah, because it's that like exciting internal life we have, we're just in our head talking about these things. But then I think, that's one of the things like I'm learning in my life is really everything to me is about balance. And I felt like I've lived my life a lot to extremes, like kind of just like something will happen, then I'll go like a ping pong ball. Oh, I'm going to go like to the other side all this way. And then I realized that's not good either. It's really exhausting to me, and exhausting to the people around me as well. So I just try to temper that and try to be a little bit more even keel, which is a challenge for me. But it's I feel like it's working for me, just trying to remember balance, and that's kind of my key thing. All right, we have one last question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It says, when I was a child, my parents or teachers seemed to see me as sensitive or shy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's been a shocker for a lot of people that knew me from as a child that I was a very quiet, shy. That's and then to see me as the character that I am on stage all the time. And I think that is just it. And I've talked to people about this. I think for me personally, creating a character and being the captain or, whatever that character has been in the past frees me.
Right.
Just how you said about judgment, as far as you feel like the eyes are on you.
Right.
Whenever I tried to perform as Brian, I never felt comfortable.
Right.
But if you put me in a scenario it's one of those like actor things. I think I was talking to my buddy Tommy about this, who's recently been doing a lot of acting type stuff, and he was saying that he said, that they say with costuming, like the more you put on, the more you become the character, and the less of yourself you become. I guess if I upset somebody or if I disappoint somebody, I can blame it on a character.
Yeah,
as opposed to myself.
It's not your real person. Yeah.
In that regard, I mean, it's more so that, and I think that's more so the fear for me is that disappointment factor.
Yeah.
Whereas, and that's why it's a lot easier for me to be a character and be up there and be over the top. I mean, and still, like the captain is me. It's the over amplified version of me in a funny way.
Yeah.
But I think that's there as
it's like armor.
It is. It is a suit of armor.
It is. I mean, I don't perform, like I said, but I love costumes.
But you do perform.
Yeah, I do in the classroom, and that's the thing. Like, I'm very confident there. And, sometimes when I go out, like, I sort of have, like, a look that I do. Like, I like the very, like, retro look. And I feel like even, like, I've had friends look in my closet and they're like, wow, it seems like you have more costumes than real clothes. Because, like, I'll go to, like, the Renaissance Fair, or I love, just different, like, genres of, like, clothing, like steampunk or, different things, because it's fun to dress up, and that's, like, a costume, and I feel kind of like not myself then, like a character.
But, I mean, I don't mean to label anything, but I think your everyday style is a bit more, what do we say, like, pinup rockabilly something?
Not at school. But.
No, not at
Yeah, like, if I go out, or, like, my preference, that's, like, kind of what I like, but again, that's sort of like a style, and I think it helps me feel a little protective. Like, when I'm out, people will notice that style or make comments about, oh, I love the way your bangs are. It looks like a Betty Page bang, or like, you really rock that rockabilly style, or, and it's not me. Like, I can talk about other things and kind of get the attention off of me a little bit.
Because you can talk about the style?
Like the style, or
clothing.
Like something I'm wearing. Like, a lot of times you'll be like, oh, I love your dress, or like, that's cute. And then I can talk about, this sounds like so stupid right now. No. Like, it sounds very superficial, but it's not really.
But you're taking you're essentially taking the attention off of you as a person and putting it on an item of clothing.
Right. And that's been a hard thing for me, is like, I don't like talking about myself to other people. Like, I'm very much wanting to know about other people. I'm very much wanting to help other people. Yeah. I feel selfish or awkward or egotistical or something if I'm talking about myself. It makes me very uncomfortable, typically. Yeah. I think I've gotten better at it, and I know that's something I need to work on, but I think a lot of people that are highly sensitive spend so much of their time thinking about other people that it's hard to, like, put that attention on themselves, because they feel like, well, there's all these other people I need to take care of and help, and like, I can't take the time to think about me or talk about me. So it's more, you're in your comfort zone when you're not yourself.
I think everything you've just said is I feel like exactly the same way as I'm talking about myself.
I know, now it's like we're talking about ourselves.
But we've already opened the door now. But I mean, that's why I'm doing this podcast, and I like to hear other people talk. Yeah. I like to hear what they have to say, and I really try to not. I don't want the attention on me. Right. I want it on whoever the guest is, or whatever. And I think that I'm actually trying to do better to let a little more of myself shine through.
Right.
And to just open myself up, the real me up. Yeah. Because I mean, that really is it. Is I do want to help people with the stuff that we're doing here.
Yeah.
And hopefully, talking about HSP, if there's somebody out there that relates to this whole everything we've talked about, that they can look into it on their own.
Yeah.
and hopefully they'll feel better about it, and they can start their own journey as far as learning how to live with it, or alter some of those behaviors.
Yeah, and I think it's important for HSPs to understand that people relate better to genuine, real people that they can connect with. And I think that power of vulnerability, making yourself vulnerable and open, people like to see that. And I think that's what allows people to feel that comfort with you and willingness to share their stories. And I think ultimately that's how you do the most good and help other people.
I agree. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. It's all the feels.
It is all about the feels. Thank you to Michelle for that. If you want to take the test and find out if you are HSP, just go to hsperson.com. The test is called Are You Highly Sensitive? Again, hsperson.com. Now, if you want more info on the books that Michelle was talking about, I'm going to post the links on the page. But if you want to jot them down right now, the first one is called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. That's C-A-I-N, Susan Cain. The other one is from Dr. Elaine Aron, A-R-O-N. It's called The Highly Sensitive Person, How to Thrive When the World Overwhelms You. The other one that Michelle uses in her classroom is William Pollock's Real Boys, Rescuing Our Sons from the Myths of Boyhood. Again, I'm going to post all the links on the show page and in the episode summary. If you can't find it, you can always email me, thecaptainspod@gmail.com, or if you have any other feedback whatsoever, it's always welcome. Got to say a huge thanks to Michelle Lynn for being on the show today. Thank you to Twitter guy Adam, Guru Ramon, and the rest of the crew. Thank you to our Patreon sponsors, Ray Slover and Michelle Lynn. Yes, the very same Michelle Lynn. She's great. Thanks to you for listening. That does it for today. Go out and be weird. Normal is boring. I love you with all the feels, and now you know it's for reals. I will talk to you next week with a whole lot more from the Captain's Pod.